and welcome to My Big Fat Mess. I'm Anthony Ferraro and this is my son Dominic, and today we are going to be doing a rolled pork leg. But it's cold, it's rainy, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. Today we're going to be cooking with fire. And I don't mean gas fire, I mean coals, lump charcoal. We're going to do a cheeky little spit. So let's have a look at the pork. It's absolutely sensational. This one's just under 8 kilos, but look at that beautiful layer of fat. That's what we want. That's going to give us that moisture. The skin's already been scored. Thank you to Tony. He's wrapped it so that it doesn't fall apart. You can get something like this from your butcher, from Coles, pretty much from anywhere. I know you can marinate these. You can kind of marinate them overnight. You can have special rubs. Mine is just very simple. When it comes to pork, I like a few key things. So I've got that rub that we used on our pork belly that we're going to be using. We're going to wash this down with some lemon and we're going to get it straight on. I've also got some hickory wood chips. So I love hickory with pork, particularly when I'm cooking. These have been soaking in water for about 2 hours, so they're ready to go. And I used warm water and I allowed it to cool down just so that way it starts the activation process of the flavors in the timber. The pork is at room temperature always. Please cook all of your proteins and things at room temperature. Otherwise it shocks the meat from going from hot to cold. It becomes tough. I strongly urge that you do that. And that's basically about it. So what I like to do is I like to get my pork rubbed and everything ready before I start doing the fire. I'll walk you through a step-by-step process how we do that as well. But that way it gives the rub and the salt time to penetrate and start flavoring our meat. And I do like soaking the wood chips for a couple of hours prior, so that way they absorb a lot of that moisture and they actually stay in the smoke boxes, creating enough smoke for us for quite a considerable amount of time rather than just burning out. I always like to rub my lemons. Why? It just loosens up the fibers in there and it allows you to get more juice out of it. All right, son, go for it. I'll rub the other one as well. Make sure you're squeezing it too. I want you to rub that lemon all inside those cracks and crevices. The acidity in the lemon starts the cooking process and the curing process quite early. So what it does is it basically starts breaking down the enzymes on the protein and it starts the process going. Plus, it actually gives you a beautiful organic flavor on the meat. So let's roll that over, son, and we'll do the other side. In my opinion, it actually makes the crackling crackle a little bit better and taste that little bit nicer. So rather than being like a really bubbly type crackling, it becomes like a lovely lacquered style crackling and it just has that flavor of the lemon infused in it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put our rub onto the pork. Now our rub is very simple, it's easy. You can make it at home. Obviously invest in one of these bad boys. Pestle and mortar, they're fantastic. You can chuck everything in there, bash it all up. If you watch the pork belly video, you'll actually see us make some. So this is our rub. Look at that, delicious.
Beautiful.
So these are flavors that work really well, I believe, with pork. So I've got fennel seeds, there is some star anise in there, and there's cloves. I've also got, in this one here, some paprika, just for a little bit of color and just that little bit of, I guess, smoky dimension. And I use a pink Himalayan sea salt that I bash all up together with. So we're gonna go ahead. Now Dominic, I will sprinkle it on and you start rubbing it into all the cracks and crevices. See how that color's changed? So that is what I'm talking about. That's the enzymes working. Now this is a big piece of meat, so don't be scared. It's very, very difficult to over season this. This particular piece of meat is gonna probably take about 3 to 3.5 hours. We're gonna do it nice and slow. So again, the process is very simple. And if you watched our pork belly video, you'll see that I like to start it quite gently and quite slowly and then ramp up the heat towards the end, which then blisters the skin, crackles it up and gets that intensity in there. So for a large piece of meat like this, and it's quite heavy, so we've got just under 8 kilos. So it's about 7.8, 7.9 kilos roughly. You could possibly put in a center bar, which kind of holds everything together so that it doesn't move around and break. However, because of the size, and we've done this a few times, I use these quite large prongs. Now these ones here are going to take most of the way through. So that will actually take care of all the weight, and it'll stop the breaking process. So there's a couple of ways you can do this. Because you need to kind of shift these through, I like to use my first one as the guide. So basically, I want to find the nice, fatter, thicker parts of the meat first, and then just gently find one for there, and then hold it and kind of just coax it in, nice and easy. What I also want to do is make sure that the centerpiece is in line with the center of the meat, so that way when the rod goes through, it holds it nicely. So that one there is ready to go. And I really give it a good push in there, really push that protein together. Now, the second part is fairly simple. You want to make sure that you have a really good rod with a nice sharp point on it. You could make a slight little incision, but because of where I've placed it, this is going to kind of go through the two bits of the muscle, and it should ease in really nicely. Now, as I push, I gently spin it just to relieve, and you will need just a fair amount of pressure. So as you can see, it's just kind of poking its way out. I am going to allow that to come out just a little bit more. Do be careful, because when you are holding it, it is easy to spike yourself, which we don't want. That'll do right there. So now that that's in, I'm now going to line this up and find my two thick bits again, nicely. And in she goes. Tighten up your screws, and there you have it. It's on. It's roughly in the center, which is roughly where we want it. Once we put it on the spit, we may need to reposition this again, but that'll all depend on where it sits. This is now going to sit while we get the fire ready, and by that stage, a lot of this flavors would have permeated through and we'll be ready to start cooking. I'm going to give this just another little quick hit with the rub, because as you can see, it's pushing a lot of moisture out. Yeah, go for it, bud. Let's let this rest and do its thing. Let's go get the fire ready. It's time to start cooking with fire. So I love using lump charcoal. This stuff is brilliant. Look at that. Now you can get this stuff from Bunnings, from any good barbecues galore, from any shop. It's really messy, so I like using gloves with it. And I grab a nice handful of shredded paper. This is my fuel source. I like to use these little Firelighters. They're brilliant. They start up really quickly and really easily. I throw a few of these in. With the paper, these catch really, really quickly, and they help give us a nice flame for the coals to start taking to. I load up my charcoal. Not too much. I like to put in a few big bits and a few little bits. The little bits will catch quicker. It's all about kind of getting the heat. Pop your little bits in on the bottom, and then a couple of big bits over the top. Now, I've got a little hack, which a lot of pit masters use. You use whatever works for you. You could use a hairdryer. You could use a battery-powered little leaf blower. I got this one. It's a lovely little cheeky little Rover 4-stroke. It works really, really well. It's just about getting the most amount of oxygen in there to get that fire going quickly and really bring some heat into those coals so that they start, they take, and that they stay on really well. So let's get it happening. So I always light from the bottom, and now we let it do its thing for a moment. So as you can hear, the rain is going. These are cracking away. There's a nice amount of heat in there. It's been about 7 minutes at the moment. I'm going to go with 10. I've just stacked a few more on top, and I've stacked them strategically to allow the air to flow from the bottom up through the top, and they're still getting a nice amount of heat. I'm pretty proud of the balancing TP. Just see if you can get creative with how you stack it, just to allow more air to go through. Now do be careful when you're doing this, because heat does rise, and there is a fair whack of heat here. Now I still leave the grill on, just so that way it can hold that while it's hot. But getting close, look at that, it's gorgeous. Now you want the meat to be on at a nice level stage. Now as you can see, that's fairly level there, but from a thickness point of view, this is thinner, that's thicker. So we need more intensity of heat around this side and less over this side here. For a piece of meat about this weight, so this is about 8 kilos, I would recommend to have somewhere around 7.5, 8 kilos worth of coal, so worth of fuel. So I roughly do about 1 kilo to 1 kilo. Some people might think that's a bit excessive, but you're better off having a few more coals than less. Now, I always use my hand as a judge of heat. Not so much, really hot. So that's kind of where we want it. And you can see already, I don't know if you can actually see some of the steam coming off that as the meat is actually warming up. But that is about right. So while this is happening, I then start with my tongs and I start putting some cold coals, the bigger ones, on the outside. They're going to start absorbing the heat. And what that means is that when we need to introduce more heat, as this one here starts to dwindle out, we're going to have enough fuel at the right temperature, ready to go. I don't recommend putting it straight on because what that does is it creates a smoke, and that is what you don't want. You don't want to be cooking with that kind of smoke because that does leave a funny taste. But if you put it on the outside, what generally tends to happen is that as it warms up gently, it's not directly in the heat, it permeates up through the outside because of the way that the spit is actually shaped. It pushes it through towards the outside. So now is when I actually load up my smoke boxes. So these are stainless steel smoke boxes. You can get these from Barbecues Galore, Bunnings. You can make them yourself. Try not to use any other material other than a high quality stainless steel, only because it rusts. And when you are using food, you want to use materials, obviously, that don't rust. And stainless steel is one of those great materials that can go from intense heat to cold and wet, and it holds its integrity really well. So just basically load up your smoke box. Now I've drained out all the water. These have been soaking for about 2 hours in warm water. This is ready to go. So the first one in and just over the top, and the hickory wood is absolutely sensational. Pop that in, and that one goes over on this side. So that's it. This is going to take about 3 hours. Obviously, just monitor it. We're going to keep it here at this level for about an hour and a half to 2 hours because I want that to cook nice and gently, really slowly. And then the last half an hour, 20 minutes, depending, we're going to drop it down. We're going to increase the heat and really blister up that skin. I love cooking with fire and with open coals because it's not an exact science. It's a form of art. It requires a level of artistry to do this. And it takes time and practice. You need to be shown the right way. So if you come in, I'll show you what I mean by it's an art form. Now, as you can see, I said before, this is the thicker part. So we want to get more heat to that first to start it cooking. We don't want this to burn. We want it to cook roughly at the same times. As you can see, look, cooking, rendering out, but still fairly neutral in terms of color, not too much heat, hasn't really started changing much at all. And that's exactly what we want. Not so much. We're gradually moving the heat down that way. You've also got to follow your smoke and your wind patterns. Now, I don't know if you can see, but I've got the smoke boxes here in the corner. I've got them in the corner because the wind is kindly coming in this way, so it's blowing the smoke through into the center of the pit, and it's lifting up into the middle of the meat with the heat. That is the artistry that I'm talking about. Now, it started to die off in the smoke, so then I pop it back into the fire, I give it a little bit more heat, and I allow it to do its job. While it's here, it's going to smoke again, and it's going to start giving me a little bit more flavor to the thicker side of things. As you can see, this is already starting to render out. The fat is starting to melt gently. That is going to go onto our smoke boxes. It's going to add a different dimension to the smoke. So like I said, this is an artistry. It's something that was taught to me. I'm really proud to say that my dad was the one who taught me how to do this. Which is really, really quite nice. This is something that I hope to instill onto my son as well. And he's in the background somewhere now having a bit of a play. But this was his idea. He wanted this. So we're doing it basically for him. So we're at about an hour in. And what I've done is I've moved the heat away from the thick part. I've increased the heat now to the outside of the edge. You can start to see that we are rendering out that fat a lot faster. I'm using the smokers now to stop the level of flames that are coming through as that fat spits and just gently bastes the meat for us. So this is the amazing way, the ecosystem of fire. You can see there's a fair amount of intense heat over here, but because of the way that the air is coming through, it's traveling this way. I've got a little bit of heat here. This is still cooking nicely, and now we've started to increase the heat to the center and the outer side as well. So like I said, we're about an hour in, and we've got about 2 hours to go. We're at the 2 hour mark now, and she's rendering out really beautifully. I've removed some of the heat out from the sides. This is our old little trusty rake that we've got that we kind of move it around with, nice and gently, because we don't want to stir up any of that ash to go onto the meat. The meat is roasting really, really beautifully. I'm still using the smoke boxes as, I guess, a drip container to contain where the flames, because as the fat renders out and drips, it does ignite, and we want to keep as much of that flame off there as possible. You can see through here all the beautiful toasting of all of the spices that we've got out there. The crackling is coming up really nicely. I've shifted more of the heat now towards the fatter end, and we've moved a bit more of the heat off to that thinner end, but it is quite warm. I'm going to move the heat box again, the smoke box, and you'll see instantly the heat just kind of lifts, and then all of a sudden it'll start dripping on this side quite intensely. So that's why I say it's an art form. You've got to really watch it, you've got to monitor it, and you've got to really enjoy it. All right, we're at the just over 3 hours mark. I am now going to drop it just to get a little bit more intensity of heat in to that skin, and then we're going to take it off. Now you're going to hear it sizzle and pop. You're going to see some big flames. We are just going to gently move these coals around just to get an even amount. We don't want too much of the flames on there. We want it crispy and crunchy. We don't want it black and burnt. Look at that. Sensational. And as Porky Pig said, yibbida yibbida, that is all, folks. So it's off the flames now. I'm going to leave everything the way it is, and just listen. It is absolutely crackalicious. So I'm going to let all that rest with all of the binding on it, with all of the attachments on there, and then about 15 minutes after that's rested, I'm going to take it apart, we're going to cut it and serve it. And that's that. That's been resting now for 15 minutes. It is beautifully and crunchy. We're going to serve it up with some coleslaw and some amazing potatoes. I hope you enjoy cooking with fire as much as I do. You guys have a great day. We're going to rip in. Buon appetito.